All right, so again, in my Notability, I have two folders on both sides, 484 and 490. Those are the two classes I teach. So you hopefully have created some folders or have some way of, organizing the stuff that you have in your Notability, because it's going to get jumbled very quickly. And so the notes that we did the other day, we started off with our right triangle trig notes. We did SOHCAHTOA, talking about those relations. We just did a Kahoot on that. We then used trigonometry to find a side length. So we did a couple of examples of that. One where our variable was on the top, like this one, for example, and then another one where the variable was on the bottom. And then we used trig to find an angle. And when you do that, we had the inverse button, which looks like this. So today's notes will be a little bit shorter, and it's going to be really just kind of wrapping both of those things together, where we use trig to solve a triangle. So when they say solve a triangle, that means we want to find all the angles and all the sides in a certain triangle. So for our first example, let me just draw you guys a right triangle. And again, of course, these are all right triangles. So let's make this angle the right angle. And let's make this 42 degrees. And we'll make the hypotenuse 18.6, okay? Now, if we want to solve the triangle, that means we have to find this side and this side and this angle. We have to find all three of those things that are missing. So we can do them in any order, but sometimes it's easier to do one thing than the other. So first thing I'm going to find is this angle right here. Well, I know that all three of the angles have to add up to 180. So I do 90 plus 42 plus that angle is going to be 180, okay? So solving that for x is going to come out to be 48. Okay, and I kind of did that quickly in my head because I know that these two have to add up to 90. So then 48 and 42 is 90. All right, so we're off and rolling. We know that this is 48 degrees. Now we want to find the side lengths. So if I wanted to find this side here, I'm going to use a trig ratio. And I could set up a trig ratio using either the 48 degrees or the 42 degrees. Doesn't matter. I'm going to use the 42 degrees, the y, and the 18.6. So I would say that the sine of 42 degrees is equal to y over 18.6. So to solve for y, I multiply both sides by 18.6. So I get 18.6 times the sine of 42 degrees is equal to y. And now I'm going to plug that into my calculator. So if you're using the TI Inspire CAS, if you're using it on your iPad, remember the wheel in the upper right corner. You want to make sure you hit that and make sure the second one down is in degree mode. Okay, we definitely want our angle to be in degree mode, or else you're going to do it right and it gives you the wrong answers. If you're using a handheld calculator, you also need to make sure your angle is in degree mode. If you don't know where that's found, I can show you when we break out into breakup rooms. I'd be happy to show you how to do that. So I want to do, again, I forgot what I'm doing here, 18.6 times the sine of 42 degrees. So 18.6 sine of 42. I don't put the degree symbol because it's in degree mode. Remember, if I just hit enter, it's not going to give me, oh, it did give me my approximation. Okay. So in my enter, I can pull up to my approximate value here. And so I get 12.4. All right, so y comes out to be approximately 12.4. So I'll go put that up in my picture here. And we're almost done solving the triangle. We have all three angles. We have two of the three sides. We now need to find the last side. So I'll call that A. And that I could do trig, or I could say A squared plus 12.4 squared using Pythagorean theorem equals 18.6 squared. Okay, so A is going to be the square root of 18.6 squared minus 12.4 squared. So I'll go to my calculator. I have the square root of 18.6 squared minus 12.4 squared. And that approximation, and we get 13.9. So that side is 13.9. So we've found all three angles and all three sides, meaning we solved the triangle. Anybody have any questions? All right. I'm going to do one more quick one, and then we'll move on to actually doing some of these in a class kick. So for my next example, I'm going to be given two sides. So if this is my right triangle, and let's say my right angle is here, and if this is, let's make that side 102.7, and let's make this side 74.3. Okay, first thing I could do is Pythagorean theorem, 102.7 squared plus 74.3 squared equals c squared. So I'll use my calculator. I get 102.7 squared plus 74.3 squared. And I have to take the square root of that. I forgot about that. So on the graphing calculator, you can hit square root and tap on the previous. Come on. You can copy and paste that. And I want an approximation. So we get 40.1.
Wait, Mr. O'Connor, you didn't put the full number in.
Ah, thank you. I didn't put the full number in because it can't be 40.1, right? We want to do the square root of, I'll type it in, 16,067.8. Thank you very much for catching that. And we get 126.8. And hopefully I would have caught my last mistake because I know the hypotenuse, of course, has to be the largest side. All right, well now we have to find an angle. So to find one of the angles, I'll find this angle. I can use any of the inverse trig functions. So if I want to call that angle y, I could say that the sine of angle y is the opposite, which is 102.7 over 126.8. So remember, when we're trying to find an angle, we do the inverse sine. So I do inverse sine of 102.7 over 126.8. So I'll go back to my calculator, click and hold the sign down, and I get inverse sine of 102.7 over 126.8. I want to approximate that, and I get 54.1. So that means my angle here, get rid of that, y is 54.1 degrees. Now I could use trig to find the other angle, but I know that all three of them have to add up to 180. So that would be 35.9 degrees. All right, anybody have any questions?